You have an idea. You want to tell it to the world, but you don't know where to start. That's where Anchor comes in. They have the tools for you to edit, produce, and record your idea right from your phone or computer. It's the easiest way to reach and grow your audience. They publish for you to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. And to top it all off, they match you with advertisers so you can earn from your passion and your wonderful idea. So tell me, what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and follow your dream. So, in Jamaica, do they still have bobsled?
They never have bobsled, specifically in Jamaica. No,
they never have bobsled.
No.
So we have been deceived.
Yeah, pretty much. No, what you have in Jamaica is what's called like the hand cart.
Okay.
Like that, which is very similar to like a bobsled. So because most Jamaicans are used to pushing a hand cart, so yeah, they can easily transition to the bobsled. But there isn't bobsledding in Jamaica. No.
But there was a team.
Yeah, there was a team.
It was just
really,
different.
Really, it was a bunch of runners. Because track and field is big in Jamaica. So they just took some runners and like, hey, listen, if you guys can run on ice and push this thing, it could be successful.
I mean,
so
bolt,
that's how it came.
Right? Bolt.
Exactly.
It's just what it is.
Pretty much.
That's good. So we're talking with Rich McNeil right here.
Yes, sir.
He's from Jamaica, and he's going to talk to us today about the importance of being friends with your pastor.
Yes.
And pastoral loneliness.
Yeah.
So before we get there, though, tell me a couple of fun facts about you, and anything you want to share about your bio.
All right, fun facts about me. Well, I'm a graphic designer. I love to do all kind of graphic art. I'm working on a graphic novel that's based on a great controversy. So I'm very artistic. I also love music. I sing, I play the guitar, and I write my own music as well.
So drums or no drums?
Oh, drums all the way.
Okay, drums all the way. Good that we cleared that.
An inanimate thing cannot be sinful, man.
That's right.
It's a tool. It's a tool. It's how you use it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're here at the meetings in Georgia, Cumberland. So you may hear some background noises and stuff like that, just letting you know. And we're talking with Rich just because we were talking in a Q&A about counseling and pastors.
Yeah.
And how that's so important. But tell me, do you feel lonely as a pastor?
Oh, definitely, man. Definitely.
Why?
For several reasons. Born and raised in the Adventist church. Church is my second home, right? So I feel comfortable among the members. I'm used to that camaraderie, that family setting, that family feeling. But I noticed very quickly, once I started into ministry, that I wasn't welcome the same. I've been in several congregations throughout my life, traveling, leaving from home, from my home state, going off to university, going off to college. I studied engineering before, so leaving to study there, and transferring membership to a new church, the camaraderie, everybody welcoming you in, and you're part of the family. But now that I'm a pastor, it's not the same. You're the new pastor, but it's like, but what are you really about? What's your agenda? You get all this judgment, all this ridicule, even outside of who you are and what you have done in the district. You get really judged by even previous pastors. You're a pastor. That kind of pedestal thing that they put you on. It really creates a divide.
So having the title is helpful in certain areas because you're allowed maybe to incorporate different things or
True.
have some sort of innate leadership attached to it. But you don't really get to go with that until you make the friends, in your local congregation. But you can't make friends in your local congregation.
Right, which is it's a catch-22. You want to really connect, but at the same time, even you yourself, there's certain biases and certain things that are going through the back of your mind, right? Like if a member is really friendly with you right up front, it's almost like, okay, why? What do you need? What do you want? Is there a hidden agenda, right? So there's the skepticism in the back of your mind, but also the members, they're not going to invite you in readily right away. Like for instance, when I first got to my district, I won't necessarily say the name of the district, but yeah, I remember I would call, went through the members list and I was calling members, hi, how you doing? Introduce myself, I'm the new pastor. I would love to come by and visit with you to get to know you. And I got turned down by quite a bit. Members like, no, that's not necessary. We'll see you at church. It's okay. So I've literally resorted to, let me back off a little bit and let me just talk with the members at church when I see them. And they're polite, they're cordial, but I'm still kept at a distance.
And do you feel like members could do more is it distrust maybe? Like, are they not, getting to know who you are? And I mean, it takes time, right?
It does take time. But I believe that churches can be more intentional about that.
Okay.
And reaching out to their pastors, even the pastor's family, especially, like for my wife, I have a wife and 2 young children, and just, my young kids, my daughter, she is 5, about to be 6, and my son is 4, just being able to have play dates with other children from the church family, that will be helpful. So even if I'm not being invited, at least my family or the women of the church even be more inviting for my wife, and, inviting her out to, to eat, different things like that. I think would be very, very helpful.
Do you think that loneliness comes from, hierarchy?
Yes. Hierarchy does play a huge factor in it. Even for myself, I'm being intentional about, removing that stigma, but the members automatically will place you and your family on a pedestal. And as much as you try to remove it and take yourself down, they're like, no, you're a pastor. So it affects even the ministry that you do, right? People will only open up to you to a certain extent because, but you're a pastor. I don't really want you to know that about me. Different things like that. So yeah, it creates a lot of divide. And the divide is not healthy. It's not healthy between members to members, but it's especially not healthy for pastors, because who do we turn to? Because pastors need to be pastors as well. We need help. We need confidants as well. Where do we turn, So I'm
not a professional counselor, but I do know, and I've been to counseling a couple of times, and I know it's really helpful. Why do you think it's so hard for pastors to go to counseling? Is it an ego problem? Is it just like having to admit to themselves that they have a problem?
I'm not quite sure it's hard for pastors necessarily to go to counseling. At least it hasn't been, not for me. As a matter of fact, I welcome counseling. I love counseling.
But if members find out that you're going to counseling or, some sort of therapy,
right? And
isn't there a stigma there that doesn't allow you?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, especially, and it's cultural too, especially for African American or African Caribbean or, just Black minority groups. If you mention about going to counseling, it's like, oh, so what's wrong with you? What are you dealing with? And especially in church circles, there's stigma. Oh, just pray about it. You don't need counseling, right? But I believe that comes through education. Many of our members, and it's important for us as leaders that we spend time to talk and explain and educate our members that mental health and counseling is not something to be shunned or looked down upon, but something that should be sought out and cared. Just as though if someone has pneumonia or something like that, you're not going to say, oh, just pray about it. You're going to say seek medical help. The same thing. Someone needs to talk to someone. They're going through depression or anxiety or the overwhelming stressors of life. We would suffer a lot less if we actually sought more help and not, let the stigma or stereotypes guide us.
Do you think that that's found in the Bible? Can you provide me an example where you find these stories of asking for help? I mean, I know that you're probably going to answer in the positive, but, I think the Christian tradition is not allowing us to, mind that gap and get from one place to another. So share with us maybe like a story from the scriptures that you can kind of resonate with, that really, maybe a verse or something that you find to be helpful for people to, I don't know, just do what they're supposed to do.
Oh, that's a very good question. The example that pops into my mind really is between Paul and young Timothy. Young Timothy, you read it in First and Second Timothy, where young Timothy, he's actually starting out in ministry, and he is actually an apprentice to Paul. and he's having issues. He's being confronted with so many different struggles. And Paul, in relating to him, was able to encourage him. And Paul became really his counselor in a sense, where young Timothy was voicing concerns back to Paul about ministry and about the churches that he's founding and leading. And Paul was able to give him some very practical advice, even to the point where Paul was even giving him advice on his physical well-being, as well as emotional, right? And we see where Paul even got to the point where Paul says, and you might reference this text, where it says, "Follow me as I follow Christ," right? Now, that specific quote is not from Timothy, 1st and 2nd Timothy, but it's where Paul was able to give that kind of guidance, where we need to be relational in that way. We need each other.
How can members truly, put down all of these barriers, and, what are the ingredients, necessary in order to kind of start baking the cake? In order to get there, because you may have the ingredients, you may not have the cake, but you need the ingredients in order to bake the cake. So what are some of those ingredients that can start, mixing in order to, truly arrive to this openness, of emotionality, maybe spirituality, even, just thinking about how we do church as a whole?
All right. Well, I think it first starts with definitely prayer, actually praying and asking the Lord for guidance, right? And then actually studying the Word of God. When I say that, I don't mean like reading a devotional book, talking about a portion of the Bible, actually reading the Bible and seeing how, especially the Gospels, seeing how Jesus interacted with other people and how Jesus really taught his disciples in how to interact with others. That is very, very much key, because then you will actually have more of an impact on your life, saying, wait a minute, why is it that my life does not reflect or even look anything remotely to what Jesus did? Because we're supposed to be followers of Jesus, followers of Christ. So we definitely want to get back to that. And what we'll notice is that the gospel is not something that is solely preached or proclaimed audibly, but it's actually something that's lived out relationally. We need to be relating with each other. I believe it's important that we get away from this, how can I put it, this sanitized, this institutionalized model when it comes to church, what church really is. Church is a body of believers coming together, growing together. And especially if you have a pastor, and the pastor is not, he's not separate from the church. He's a part of the body, and we all need to grow and interact with each other even more.
Talking about the ingredients, I think that you're mentioning very good two ingredients, and it's just like encouraging conversation among the members. Sometimes I think that a lot of conversations are shut down because there's not a safe space to share them. And I think that can lead to loneliness, not only a loneliness that is physical, but also like a mental, emotional loneliness, but, psychological, like when you have an idea and you want to share and, no one wants to listen, at the end of the day, you're still lonely.
True.
You're lonely in your opinion, and maybe something that you want to share is something that can benefit the community.
Right.
And I think that that's part of the important, it's very important. Now, pastors suffer from loneliness because sometimes they cannot go to their members or, people to talk about these things. A counselor may be like a direct, solution. But what are some other, ideas that you may have for pastors or even members, that are battling loneliness, because it's very real?
Social interaction is big.
But we have social media.
Not the same. Definitely not the same. Definitely not the same. Not even remotely close. Now we need that human contact. We need that human, especially social media. Social media is very, very, we project in social media. We either project that we're intelligent, we overly intelligent. We project that we're one way when really we're not. We're another. We even, it's very artificial. It's not real. It's not really who we are. Because if it's really who we are, then you will see on social media that we're posting about our hurts, where, people are saying, hey, I just failed at this. I really just bombed this aspect of my life, and I just got dumped, and I deserve it. We're not doing that, right? And when it comes to social interactions, we need to be able to confide in someone and know that that person in return actually cares about me and is not seeking to condemn me, right?
So you're saying that social media is maybe like a complement to our social life?
It can be. It can be.
Yeah,
it can be.
Because we cannot be too extreme to say like,
right,
don't use social media or whatever.
No. But if social media is your only go-to for any kind of connection, that's not a good place to be.
There's an experiment that was done. I don't remember the university. I may have to look it up. It is on a book called Digital Minimalism. So
okay.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
At least that,
yeah.
I can remember. But the experiment shows what are the areas of our brain that kind of light up when we're doing nothing. And something that they encounter is that the same area that lights up when we have social interactions is the area that lights up when we're doing nothing. So that same area in the brain kind of shows that, whether you believe that you were created in the image of God or whether you believe that it's evolutionary things, we're social beings.
Yes.
And that's just the reality, or social animals in that case. But at the same time, when it comes to loneliness, having social media can be a way, to have a quick access to someone to help.
Yeah.
And I think that can complement, but at the end of the day, not having touch, like not having that interaction can be very detrimental. And,
definitely.
With the push to digitalizing everything, church service, preaching, like I can get my own, because I think that there's this element of individuality that religion has moved to, whereas I think the religion of the Bible is very communal.
Very much so.
And if it's not communal, then it's not church, right? You cannot be churching on your own.
You can't. And it's really the biblical model that we see all throughout is that God, even though we see in some occasions where the Lord will come and he will have a particular word for one individual, right? He will come and he'll say something to Isaiah or Ezekiel or Daniel. It was always for the group. It was always to be shared with others. It's never just, this is just for you, Daniel, no one else. No, it was always to be shared. And that's why we have the testaments today, so we can read them and benefit from them. And it's the same thing with churches today. Whenever, anyone says, it's just me, it's my personal thing, my own personal struggle. I said, yeah, but no, your struggle is supposed to be a benefit for someone else as well. We grow off of each other. We feed better off of each other. We grow in community. Studies have shown that even young babies, young children that, premature babies, that if they're held, if they have that contact with not even, it doesn't even have to be their biological parent, just having that physical contact with someone else, it helps them to grow and to nurture better than if they're just left in isolation just by themselves. So different things like that go to show that we need each other.
Another area that I wanted to touch on is, what do you do when you feel lonely? Because you have a family.
Yes.
So, for you may turn to your family, and that can be a temporary measure, I mean, that's your primary responsibility and, and stuff like that. And I know a lot of pastors' wives that do feel lonely, because they may not have anyone to share or anyone to kind of have this opportunity. I mean, pastors, pastor wives, pastoral families, they all feel lonely, but, being married, alleviates a little bit of that. Not to the full extent, they're still experience loneliness. But do you think that our, understanding of singleness needs to shift? Because a lot of people are single in our churches. Millennials are not getting married until they're 27, 28, maybe 30s, 25 plus. There is no when you get to 25, that's it, get some children or whatever. But, do you think that our embracing of people, and it's not to say that single people are lonely, there's some single people that are happy,
definitely.
And they have very good communities.
Yes.
But singleness allows for loneliness in such a way that, family kind of alleviates a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So do you think that the church needs to provide more spaces for all people, and how to do that?
Yes, the church definitely does. How to do that would be to being intentional about setting up support groups, offering for teaching the church at large how to minister to those that are single, how to minister to those that are married, right? And not painting a negative stigma based on whatever category you're in. Or overemphasizing one, or overemphasizing, it's good to be married. It's good to be married, and it's like, okay, so I'm not married. So are you saying that I'm bad or evil or sinful because of my life situation? Being mindful of things like that is very, 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 very important. I like how David approaches life. He actually prayed and he says, Lord, break my heart with the things that break your heart, right? And I think that our members as a whole, the closer you get to Jesus Christ, the things that affect God's heart will become yours. And the way in which the Lord will relate to someone will become the way you will relate. But you have to be intentional about that. And what we find is that most times we're not as intentional as we should be. We tend to only focus on what we're going through.
How can you gauge intentionality?
How can you gauge intentionality?
Yeah, I mean, like, is there a bar? Is there a way? Is there a method? Because, as human beings, whether we like it or not, we like to see a certain metric. We live for the competition. Like, you can say like, well, we're not supposed to, we're supposed to like be living for the good things and virtues. But it's in society, there's this metric. So like,
Well, one of the ways I believe you can gauge a metric, you plan for what you deem as important. Always, right? You set a schedule. You have the things that are important to you. You set an alarm for it. You put it on your calendar, kind of thing like that, where that shows intentionality, right? If you intend to be at church on time, you're going to make sure that you set an alarm so you don't oversleep or, different things like that. So when it comes to being intentional about ministering to those that are lonely, is that you're intentionally seeking and you're intentionally asking certain questions or looking for certain telltale signs to see, okay, maybe such and such might be struggling with that. Let's plan more social events that really create an environment for people to come together. Being intentional in the ministries of the church where you're saying, all right, listen, we need to make sure that, hey, where's our pastor? How's he doing? We didn't invite him to this particular event. Let's do things like that. And let's create safe environments where even from the leadership standpoint that you're stating, hey, listen, we're all struggling. And you are being intentional about the verbiage that you use and letting everyone know, listen, it doesn't matter what your struggle is. You're not being condemned here. You might be judged, yes, but we judge in righteousness. We judge you not to condemn you, kick you out, but to judge you, to help you. We all need help. So we all get judged together.
Yeah, that sounds very good. And I think that this is, a lot of pastors don't visit, but on the other side, on the other end, I don't want to just give the responsibility to pastors because we believe in the priesthood of all believers.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you as a member, you should be visiting at least one person a month, and like, I think we can break down visitation in this next couple of minutes. Is like a lot of people think that visitation is this huge, lofty, having to talk about the deepest things in your life.
No.
So I think we need to really reshape visitation because, just think about it from a very simple perspective. If you have 6, 7 families in your church, maybe more, 10, let's put 10. 10 families in your church, that's at least 30 to 40 people.
True.
Right. And then you may have the, 20 other single, individuals, right? If each family visits another family just once a month, right? Or another person once a month, or takes them out, to lunch, to dinner, to whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. I think that could create that culture, because
Definitely.
As a pastor, a pastor cannot visit all the church members in 1 month.
No, it's not going to happen.
And they may have 2 churches and stuff like that. I think what would you say is a good number, that you're visiting, that a pastor and the members are visiting every month?
what would you say? My number?
Yeah.
As how often do I visit? You mean?
No, like
or
what would be a good number? Like
good
to
number.
aim for. I mean, it's not like, okay, this is going to happen, but like you can aim for to talk intentionally, right? We're talking about intentionality and leaving loneliness aside.
Yeah.
How do you intentionally visit somebody? How many times?
Okay. Well, I look at it slightly different because really visitation is just a old school way of saying hanging out, right? Where our members are being intentional about hanging out together, right? So what I do is I really encourage in my churches that we always have fellowship lunch. Always encourage that, right? And I also encourage, listen, we need to be having more social events planned. Social, right? We need just spend time together. So there needs to be a church bowling night. There needs to be church game nights, different things like that. So as far as a metric, I would say a church should be hanging out together within a particular month at least 3 times. At least. The more, the better.
No Bible?
Yeah, no Bible. Just converse.
Pastor.
Just converse. Yeah, because you already having worship services on Sabbaths. You already having Bible studies on Sabbath afternoons or Bible studies on Friday nights. Yes, that's good, but you need to just have social interaction where you just talking with each other. Because once we're gonna have a Bible study, people tend to climb up and they get intimidated by that. And then, okay, I'll just remain quiet. I don't know that much about the Bible, so I just keep my mouth shut, kind of thing, where really you want to open it up even more, And I believe that during the social interactions, guess what? If God is in you, he's going to come out. God is going to come up in a conversation. So people are still going to be edified. It's just that you're being intentional about, I want to get to know you, what you're struggling with, what you're going through. Just talk to me, And sometimes you just spend time around each other. You might not even need to say much. If someone is quiet and very introverted, they don't want to talk much, just their presence.
That reminds me of like the Acts church, right? Like, we're trying to get back to Acts, like, it's this journey. There's this journey that the church has embarked on since the Reformation of we got to get back to Acts, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a very simple idea of just hanging out with people. I visit a Sunday church.
Yeah.
Every I was gonna say Sabbath. That's not. But every Sunday I go to a Sunday church at 6 p.m. and there's a group of young adults there that invited me, right?
Yeah.
To be part of their kind of like game night.
Cool.
And it's just great. You know, and like I feel like a lot of our churches could benefit from that. Just having their own, for their own youth, for their own adults, like, it's so great, and I feel loved. I know some of them are listening, so I want to shout out to you guys. I really appreciate you guys inviting me because I just got to the church. I visited like maybe 2-3 times.
Okay.
And they were like, hey, if you want to come through,
that's nice, man.
After church, we go and get, and I was like, I don't find this in my faith tradition,
Wow.
In my faith tradition, right? As a Seventh-day Adventist, I don't find this just loving, let's go hang out, talk about life, because I feel like sometimes we can be so exclusivist, like we're only going to talk about this certain amount of topics because nobody's listening to music. Nobody's going to the movies, right? Nobody's watching Captain Marvel or Avengers Endgame. Nobody's watching.
I wouldn't say nobody.
But you understand my point, right?
Yeah, I got you.
No one's doing those things. No one's listening to Ariana Grande and, like all of these singers or whatever. It's on pop culture nowadays. Nobody's doing that. So, because the question, I guess, is like, what are we going to play on the background when we're meeting socially? We get into all of these rabbit holes and like stuff like that and it's not only particular to Adventism.
It's not.
Like it happens in other faith traditions, Baptist, Methodist, and different faith traditions, because I feel like I think like we do this systematic loneliness where we exclude ourselves from culture and society in order to protect, because, and I feel like that's, engaging with culture, right? And showing how the Christian way and understanding of culture is better, where's a better life, at least a happier life, a peaceful life, right? That the scriptures delineate. That's just so much better than trying to say, do not engage in those activities. Please do not know. Because when you exclude yourself, you're automatically isolating.
Right.
And I think that can be dangerous because then young people and adults, they don't know how to navigate conversations of regular life.
Right.
They just know how to say the right creed, the right way, the right doctrine to counteract this evil thing in the world.
Yeah.
But they don't know how this developed, why it developed. And I think that's just part of the whole idea.
Yeah. And I think a huge part of that is due to a false theology that many of us, we have been taught, whether directly or indirectly. Where the Bible actually says that we should be in the world, but not of the world, meaning that we're not guided by the standards of the world or the world's ideas or worldview, right? But we are still a part of society. We're still living in society, and many of us we are taught, whether directly or indirectly, that our theology is based on our head knowledge and not so much based on our practical lifestyle being lived out among others. And that's where we actually miss where Jesus Christ, he is praying that the world will know that we are actually one with him and that we're one with each other as we are mingling with them. They will look and see. This whole isolation going off, it's actually the same kind of mindset that the early first, second century, where they build monasteries, right? They wanted to be, they were separate. They literally separated themselves and built walls, where
huge walls.
The huge walls. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where they wanted to be apart, away from, because they didn't want to be, quote unquote, polluted by the world. And that kind of mentality is not biblical. If anything, as Christians, we should be trying to infect the world with our love. That's what we actually need.
I think that's too radical for disruptive Adventism, so I'm just going to cut that. I'm not going to. Rich, thank you very much for, having this conversation.
Yeah,
There's so many other ways, but, we're cutting out here. Maybe we'll have a part 2, and kind of follow up with what you have to say. But I really want to appreciate, I think that, you've touched on a couple of things that can be really helpful for people to get out there and get engaged, with their church community, with the world, and start believing and studying. Right?
Yes.
That's a very important part. So I hope that, listeners do appreciate what you're saying, and that, they may start this conversation in their own church.
Yeah.
It is our tradition, and we follow tradition very closely. But we like to give the final word to our guests. So go ahead. And just as a final thing for me to say is that we confirmed here that there are no bobsleds in Jamaica. Just saying.
None.
Go ahead. Final word.
Hey, but on a real tip, everyone, please, what I would suggest is have conversation with your pastor. Be intentional about it. Reach out to him. He might not be as open enough to reach out to you to say, hey, hang out with me. But no, reach out to him. Be intentional about that. And also look out for pastoral families. Pastoral families need a lot of love. Pastors get a lot thrown their way. A lot of stress and pressure is placed on pastors. And they need not only your intentionality, but also need your prayers. So just reach out to them, show them some love, and let them know that you're there for them.
You've been listening to Disruptive Adventism. We hope that today's topic helped you to think and change something about your practices, about your faith, about your Adventism. If you want to subscribe, make sure to go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be there. And make sure to give us a review if you like what you're listening to. If you want to support, make sure to go to patreon.com/disruptiveadventism. It helps us pay our bills and produce the content that you're listening to. And if you want to socialize, make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram or on Twitter, and hit us up whenever you need anything. We'll be there to support you. Thank you for listening today. We hope you join us next time. And as always, we invite you to be disruptive.